Good morning. We haven't really talked about our garden a whole lot this year. We had, I guess, one video that showed you a little bit. But the Revolting Man asked me to do a garden update or a garden conclusion. So I think I'll take you around today and show you what's been going on. I don't know if y'all can see this very good. It is super bright out here, and you know, in the sun you can't really see cell phone screens very well. So this is what's going on in the garden. Can we see that good? These bean beetles, let's see if I can find some. They have just been demolishing everything. There's a nymph. I see. Focus in on that. And here's an adult. They look like a ladybug, but more light yellow or orange in color. And usually these butter beans will go until frost, and that's what happened last year. Is I was still picking them even after the frost had killed the foliage. I was still picking the butter beans themselves. And this year we've had awful butter bean production. They, first of all, didn't come up when they got planted. They had to get replanted, and then the beetle hit. And this is what happens. You get bare stalks and no pods can't fill out. Well, okay, I don't know if you can see this all that well, but these are 2 rows of whippoorwill peas that did really well. I was really impressed with them. I wish they had kept going. I think the bean beetle got them too, or you know, other pests, and they just called it quits. But they're a wonderful little pea. You can see these nice long peas. They're smaller than, you know, like the more popular varieties. Like the pink-eyed purple hull is what a lot of people like around here. The Crowder pea is also another one I've become familiar with that people like. This was an older variety, and it was grown by Thomas Jefferson and what was it, Monticello? Is that where he was at? His big gardens? But anyways, I think it's a pretty dependable, reliable little pea, and I'm super excited about it, especially if we're going to have such problems with our butter beans. This seems like it'll be maybe a good alternative to try to grow more peas next year. Well, I put whippoorwill peas in the win column. My pink-eyed purple hull that I planted, I would definitely put in the non-win column. I don't know if it was a complete fail, but they just didn't produce like the whippoorwills. There was a couple of times where I had to replant even because the first rows didn't come up. So we really like the heritage, the whippoorwill. So okra is definitely one that goes in the win column. A little bit too much because we don't eat a whole lot of okra. So I mean, we've got just pods going nuts that, I mean, they're just going to go to seed because we can't eat all of it. And but good to know that it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of pests or diseases or anything like that. So oh yeah, and right next to this okra it was beets that I planted early in the spring, and I just harvested maybe a couple weeks ago, and they kept in the ground. It was really amazing. I was so surprised. really good crop for us, I think. Beets are, again, they don't seem to have pests, and you know, they seem to do really well with minimal you know, intervention. Corn, we have done, the corn's been really, really good, although we haven't really eaten any of it this year, and we could have eaten some of it as sweet corn, but we just didn't. And then we're gonna go ahead and harvest that soon so we can get this stuff plowed up. This is ridiculous. There's weeds out here that are almost my height, but look at some of that corn is 10 feet tall. I had a patch over here that was potatoes that did not do well, another fail earlier in the spring, and then we put sunflowers in, which I did not harvest in time, and now looks like most of the sunflower seeds are now on the ground. Oh, and the butternut squash that we grow always does well. I have not seen problems with it yet, and it keeps forever, so that is definitely still in the win column. This is something we are really proud about, guys. We have successfully grown carrots. Only a little bit, but check this out. Oh, look at that. These are, let's see, they're called tender sweet, and they are short and stubby like that, I think on purpose, because they're sort of good for like our clay soil. So I tried those, and I tried a different kind. Let's see. Down here. So the short stubby ones did much better. And these kind, I think are called Danvers. Let's see what this, oh, that's not good at all. So they're still problematic, but hey, it's a carrot. Here's the main reason why I like the pink-eyed purple hulls. Other than they're just, I mean, peas are just fun, and beans. They turn purple when they're ready to be picked. That's awesome. Tomatoes have been terrible this year, guys. I'm so embarrassed. Last year they did fairly well. I mean, I was pretty pleased with last year. Now I got them in the ground way late, and we had major rain for the first part of the summer, so I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but there's some plants down here, and then there's some plants up there. But they're just looking awful. Well, what else did we miss? This was a row of lima beans that obviously the beetle got, and they were huge, big fat lima beans, and they're really good. And then I had rows of butter peas that produced really, I mean, they were putting off tons of pods for a while, but then they got hit with the beetle. So okay, I guess I touched on everything up in the big garden. Let's take a walk down to the little garden and see what's going on down there. One thing I didn't mention was our brassicas in the spring. They did well. They let's see, I think I had a decent broccoli yield, and kale just keeps going and going and going forever. So kale is definitely in the win column for us here in Georgia. This is super exciting, y'all. Look at this. Looks like, oh, I don't know. Oh, look at that. Looks like our first fig might be ready. We are so happy about this. We thought this thing was dead, and there are lots of little figs everywhere. Oh, it's so exciting. This has basically just been a garden plot that I've let grow wild, and there's been volunteers. There are some miracles. That's kind of fun. And oh my gosh, I extended the asparagus patch this year, And it's just going crazy. But check this out. This is what's left of one tobacco plant that we were able to grow. We started a bunch, and then they like hit the ground at one point. They got knocked over, and we lost a bunch. And so this was the only one that survived. So we're pretty proud of it. I should have gotten a clip of where the revolting man put the good leaves up in his shop somewhere to dry. So just a quick recap. These are the things that are in the win column. We've got corn in the win column. We've got butternut squash, okra, sunflowers did good, cantaloupe, beets, whippoorwill peas, watermelon, cucumbers. Oh, I didn't mention the cucumbers. I did some cucumbers in this small kitchen garden earlier, and they did very well. For like a month or two, they were just going nuts. Sweet potatoes, I'm assuming. Garlic from last fall did really good. Tobacco and carrots, even though they're a small win, they're like a big win in our eyes. And then in the major fail column is green beans, yellow beans, butter peas, butter beans, lima beans, summer squash. Oh, I didn't mention the summer squash. Never did much of anything at all. They got the weird, the fungus or whatever that makes them just die and rot. I can't remember what it's called now. Pink eye, purple hull peas, our potatoes, English peas, that was earlier in the spring, and I think the deer and rabbits got them for the most part, and then they just got too hot too quick, and they just stopped. And then onions, I didn't mention onions either, but the onions are pretty much my fault, I think. I didn't get them out of the ground soon enough, and they just started turning, you know, they started turning. They don't ever get really big for me either, though, so, I mean, I don't know. But anyways, there's some that are kind of in the middle of the win and fail categories. But even though, and then I want to mention too that even though those peas and beans are in the fail categories, they still produced, except for the green beans and stuff. But like the butter beans and everything, they still produced. And I still am really happy about the amount that I was able to get off of them. I sold a bunch, and there's a bunch in my freezer, so that is exciting. But we have to find some way to keep this beetle at bay. So we're gonna have to figure something out. I don't know if y'all can see this or not, but there's kittens. This is just one of the sides of our houses that I had, actually no, we didn't plant this year. Somebody, one of the girls planted morning glories here last year, and they just reseeded. But I want to show y'all something, and maybe have you help me out here. There is something else that's growing in this patch. Something rather odd and mysterious. Not just kittens. There is a weird fruit. I don't know if y'all can see this or not. Look at this. What is it? Can we see that, guys? Look at this thing. It's got spikes, it's got flowers and vines like a cucumber, but what in the world is that? It's all in here. Somebody please, what in the world is this stuff? And if it's edible, I didn't plant it. I don't know where it came from.